What's up everyone, it's Miles here and welcome back to the channel. In today's show, I'm going to be talking to you guys about what is currently happening in the market and giving you a full market update with my opinion on my price targets for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other altcoins in the market. It is an extremely green day at the moment with many of the biggest narratives pumping. We have coins going up 10, 20, 30% left, right, and center, and overall bullish sentiment is back into the market. But we have to ask ourselves, will this sentiment sustain? And if it will, then how do we best trade this to maximize gains in our portfolio? So in today's show, I'll give you all the key levels that I am looking at on my charts, as well as some altcoins that I am eyeing that if Bitcoin holds these levels could potentially perform very, very well. I just wanted to remind you quickly, if you are new to the channel, click that subscribe button as well as the post notification bell, as I post twice a week to keep you updated with the latest news and alpha in the crypto market. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. And obviously it was an extremely green day today, but before we look at the charts, we have to ask ourselves, why was it a green day? We have to work out the cause and effect of the current pump to evaluate whether or not it's sustainable. The first factor I think that we have to take into account is the massive liquidations that we had. We had unprecedented short liquidations with $211 million getting wrecked over the last 24 hours. So clearly there were a lot of shorts piling up, and I think bears were starting to get very euphoric after we got that dip, mostly off the back of the regulatory FUD and pre-CPIs. There was a bit of nervousness heading into that date, but a lot of those shorts ended up just getting wiped out when the market quickly flipped. And there are a few reasons why the market quickly flipped. The first thing is, once CPI was out of the way, the markets kind of had an excuse to rally, because although the CPI data wasn't favorable, price action leading up to CPI has been quite strong for both Bitcoin and equities. So when the data came in and it was on par or maybe slightly below expectations, markets said, you know what, I don't care about the news. We want an excuse to be bullish. And many of the continuation patterns that had originally triggered pre-CPI started to continue post-CPI. And basically, the market just didn't want to be bearish. And we saw this in the repricing of equity values versus bonds. So if we look at the 2-year US Treasury yields, they had a very sharp dip post-CPI, but equities actually started to decouple, and we've only seen the extension of the decoupling since then. The other reason why the market pumped, and I think this was one of the biggest reasons behind the rally, was the Blur airdrop. Now, the Blur airdrop was almost a $400 million airdrop that was given out to users of the NFT platform Blur. Now, when you have $400 million suddenly entering the market from nowhere, that money has to go somewhere. It was almost like a mini crypto stimulus, with money just entering the market essentially out of thin air, which was obviously diversified and filtered into many of the other coins in the market. So I wouldn't fade the impact that this Blur airdrop actually did have on the market. And one person even made $1.5 million on the airdrop, and at Blur's peak, he was up around $3.8 million, which is absolutely crazy. And it kind of alludes to the fact that I think the airdrop market genuinely is back. I mean, we've seen huge airdrops already this year and off the back end of last year, like Aptos, recently a big optimism airdrop, and now obviously the Blur airdrop. I mean, just imagine this is only a bear market and normal people are making 3, 4, 5 figures on some of these airdrops. Like I saw people making, solid amounts like $10,000, $15,000 from Blur. And then obviously on the high end, you have people making millions of dollars. If this is happening during a bear market when Bitcoin is pretty far off and most other altcoins are pretty far off their all-time highs, what would happen in a bull market when liquidity is being injected into the ecosystem at a rapid pace and a retail interest is coming in? I mean, those airdrops could potentially be worth, 6, 7 figures on the low end. So it's pretty interesting to me. I think it definitely validates the airdrop hunting game. I know that strategy is not for anyone. You guys know I'm big on airdrop hunting because I do believe, it's a way that we can make, I don't usually like this term, but I guess free money in crypto because, it takes a small time investment for potentially a big reward. I do lots of threads on this stuff, as you guys know, but I just think it's crazy that 5-figure airdrops in a bear market are even a thing, and the Blur airdrop was certainly a major catalyst for why prices rose. Interestingly though, most of this pump can be attributed to Bitcoin rising in price. So the majority of the liquidity being injected to the ecosystem right now is going into Bitcoin, and for me, this is Bitcoin's time to shine. We did see dominance also rise significantly, and although overall dominance has been ranging sideways and even coming down over the last few months, we can see there has been an uptick over the past couple weeks in dominance. And interestingly, usually when dominance rises, like it did a week ago, that was off the back of a huge sell-off. But now we're seeing dominance rise off the back of a huge pump, which means the money is going into Bitcoin first and the altcoins later. So essentially, this is kind of like its own new mini cycle where we see money go into Bitcoin, then money filter down into mid caps, then money filter down into low caps. I personally see if Bitcoin can break out of its key range that I'm going to identify to you guys now, and it can consolidate above that range, then we will see liquidity shift into some of the alts. But it's actually a positive sign for the market that Bitcoin is leading the pack, and it's up to us as investors to position ourselves for a potential rotation. But it actually is very positive. So on that topic, on those levels, the first thing I want to do is go out onto the daily time frame and look at where Bitcoin currently sits. Now, you guys know, because I've been speaking for quite some time about this, that the 200 MA on the daily is one of my favorite indicators to use to substantiate whether we are in a bull trend or a bear trend. Typically, what we see is when we break out of the 200 MA to the upside, we do see significant upside. So in 2019 to 2020, we retested multiple times and then broke out to the upside. That was obviously one of the biggest legs of the bull run. Then we saw in mid-2021, we broke out to the upside, and that resulted in a nice pump. And then the second leg, which took us to all-time highs. And then also it works in reverse. When we break down and have a bearish retest of the 200 MA, that has resulted into huge legs to the downside. I mean, none more pertinent than the one that happened in 2022 that resulted in massive downside. And then obviously Luna and FTX didn't help the cause, and the market was in a bearish trend for essentially the whole year. But we have seen a shift in this, where recently we broke out of this trend and successfully retested and are now pushing to the upside. So the 200 MA is good because it gives me an overall sense of, okay, are we in a bull market or are we in a bear market? If we're above, I'm looking at longing more than I'm shorting, and if we're below, I'm looking at shorting more than I'm longing. It's just another tool in our arsenals to substantiate where we currently sit. And that's why over the past few weeks, I've been very clear on the fact that I haven't been shorting this market, and I wanted to maintain net long positioning to take advantage of the uptrend, because you can't fight the trend in crypto. If the trend is up, you have to play within the constraints of that trend, and when the trend is down, then you can look to flip your thesis to incorporate more hedging strategies and more shorting strategies to take advantage of downside. But for now, the trend is up. So where can this trend potentially take us? Well, let's zoom in onto the 4-hourly chart to have a look at what's happening. There's a very important range right now, and this is both on the higher time frames and the lower time frames, and that is the range between 15,500 and the highs at 25,000. And essentially, we've been in this range for the last couple months. But if we do get a breakout to the upside, which would mean a breakout of 25k, then I do have price targets of 28k to 32k for Bitcoin. So it has a very important decision to make right now, and yes, it is approaching resistance, but if it can break out of 25, then that could potentially result in huge gains to the upside. So especially on the higher time frames like the daily, I'm looking for a successful breakout and confirmation of this 25k range. This is the most important zone for Bitcoin right now, and of course, if it breaks above and consolidates, then altcoins are going to fly, and we'll position ourselves in the strongest narratives as we've been doing over the last few weeks. And I'll get into a couple of those narratives in today's show in a few minutes, but this is the very important level that I would keep my eye on for Bitcoin. Now, yes, we're approaching resistance. There's a possibility over the next few hours or days we come down and we retest the top of the previous range before making a push to the upside, but we do know this is for certain. We definitely are going to go and test 25, so it's exciting times to be in the crypto market, because this move from 25 to 28 can be explosive. There's not much resistance in the way of 25 to 28, which means if we break, it can be an explosive move to the upside. And then of course, we do have our previous structure that is still intact. If we do come down, there is certain levels here that will provide good opportunities to start de-risking, and obviously a break below this previous range of 21.4 would invalidate our thesis. So we have clear validation zones. The 200 MA on the daily is another one of them, and we have clear breakout zones where we can look to start taking longs and getting more aggressive into the altcoins. Speaking of altcoins, because Bitcoin dominance has been pumping, we have seen Bitcoin perform better than many alts, but Ethereum, which is the leader of the alts in many ways, has still performed okay. So if we go onto the 4-hourly on Ethereum, it's looking very similar to Bitcoin. Its range high is slightly further away, but it is approaching the top of its existing range, its more recent range, which if it does break out above, I do expect Ethereum can look to push up to that $2,000 range. So that would result in a successful breakout and confirmation of the 1,700 region, and then a push to the upside in the 2,000 region. So that is what I'm looking at on Ethereum. So it's a very interesting time for Ethereum and Bitcoin. They have big decisions to make, but before they make those decisions, let's start preparing and getting ourselves in the strongest narrative narratives and looking forward to some of the strongest coins in the market. And I've given quite a few to you guys, but I'm going to give you a few more now that I'm looking at and I'm observing as being possible strong trade contenders. Before we get into that, remember, if you want to trade any of these price actions, because undoubtedly there is very strong opportunities to come on the trading front, and there has been opportunities for the past few weeks, you can sign up for an exchange link in the description to Bitget or ByBit and potentially win yourself a Rolex. So what I'm doing over in 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗫𝗧, which is the channel I stream on every single day, is we're hosting a giveaway of a $25,000 ByBit Submariner Rolex and also roughly a $15,000 Submariner on Bitget. It's the black face sub. So if you do want a chance to win a Rolex, there is still another 14 days. All you need to do is sign up to one of these links, either Bitget or ByBit, and make a trade. The more trades you make, the more chances you have of entering. So if you make 100 trades, that is 100 entries. So technically, you'd have 100 times winning as someone that just opened one trade. So it's very simple. Sign up, take a trade, and there is also nice deposit bonuses for you of $30,000 on ByBit and also $8,000 on Bitget for you guys to get involved. So good luck. I hope one of you does win the Rolex. That would be awesome, but you've only got 14 days to go. Now what I want to do is look through a few macro Bitcoin charts, and then after that, we're going to get into the altcoins and talk about what's happening over there. The first thing I want to note is that a lot of the influx here has come from Asia. So we saw Bitcoin significantly rally in price after the Asian Open. Even Australia started kicking off the rally this morning, and a lot of that interest, in my opinion, is coming from Hong Kong, which is officially making crypto purchasing and selling, trading fully legal for all of its citizens. So I am expecting, as Andrew Kang said, an influx of money from the East, and I think this is a great thing for crypto in general, having more interest coming from the Asian side of the market. We're seeing the Asian Open now being a really big event where, you know, a lot of crazy price swings happen, and recently a lot of price pumps have happened from Asia. So the Asians at the moment, they're max bidding, and this Hong Kong official legalization is something to look forward to as well. Right now, in a macro sense, if we do look at the current Bitcoin rally, it is pretty similar to what happened in 2019. Now, I'm not a huge fan as an investor and as a trader at looking at old data and trying to map it against new data, because I think markets change, conditions are very different now to back then, and in general, it's pretty easy to get confirmation bias from lining up different charts. But I just think it's interesting to note that things are looking quite similar to 2019. We can see this is where Bitcoin currently is. This was a couple of weeks ago, so it would be even higher now, and it does seem to be mapping the Q2 performance of Bitcoin in 2019. So that's just something to keep your eye on. But I think an even more startling chart was this chart, and although I kind of dismissed this one a little bit, but found it interesting enough to retweet, this chart actually is quite shocking to me. And what this is this is the indexed price performance of Bitcoin on a logarithmic scale in the 3 cycles. So 2017, the 2021 run, and then also the most recent cycle. And we can see that if you map them against each other by the days since the halving, the patterns are almost exactly the same. So 2013 obviously had that run up, and then it had a crash and consolidation for a couple of years. The exact same thing happened in 2017, just on a slightly later scale, and the exact same thing seems to be happening with this 2022/2023 run, which had its huge pump obviously in 2021. Then things have started to decline, and now things are ticking up again. But if we look at the current levels, where we currently sit on the crossover between this red section and this blue section, we can see we pump into this blue section and we see a slight tick upwards. That's basically the exact same thing that happened on all the other charts here. Although in 2013 it dumped into it and then ticked upwards, we can see that once we hit this last third of the bear market heading into the next cycle, things start to look up and generally the bottom's in. Now, once again, I don't think we can put a lot of weight on these halving cycles. The market conditions are very different now. I'm always adaptive in my thesis and changing things based on my macro outlook, and I don't necessarily think we just copy last cycles. I think that would be much too easy, and the market tends to want to shake you out and chuck crazy things your way, and I doubt it does play out exactly like this, but it's still interesting to take into account just how similar this cycle has been so far to previous cycles, and maybe it's potentially a bit of bullish hopium if you subscribe that we are following the same halving theory, that we have already bottomed and that we can continue to look for upside. Now, I'm skeptical of that. I think the macro environment still a little bit tough, and I'm personally not looking at going crazy loading up into spot bags yet. I just from a risk reward perspective, it doesn't make too much sense to me, but I am a big narrative trader at the moment, and I am a really big advocate of trading with the trend. And if you're trading with the trend, then you want to be in the strongest projects. So let's discuss some of the projects that are performing well at the moment and could outperform over the next few months, especially if Bitcoin holds and continues to break to the upside. Then these could be ones that outperform. Now, we've been pretty good over the past few weeks, not just on this channel, but also over on Crypto Banter and my Twitter at picking these narratives. I think we got GNS before a 7x. We got many Fantom ecosystem projects before they exploded. We traded DYDX perfectly, PYR. We got entries into a lot of these low caps I called 𝗕𝗓𝗘𝗫 on the Banter show last Sunday. We've done very, very well with our trades, but there will still be more opportunities going forward. And I want to just keep you guys up to date with what narratives I'm seeing in the market. One of them clearly right now is the L2/ZK narrative, which is a very strong performer. And I do see ahead of ZK Sync's token launch, ahead of Polygon's ZK EVM launch, and ahead of Starknet's token launch, this narrative continues to be a strong performer. I did do a thread on this a couple weeks ago of the strongest coins here that I'm looking at, but the TLDR here is you've got Mina, you've got Loopring, you've got Dusk, you've got Mute, and of course you've got MATIC, which has been performing well. Now in terms of MATIC, I want to touch on this one. This is actually at a really, really important level because on the daily chart, we have broken out above our range highs at $1.30. This is the level that MATIC needed to break to look at potential upside to the $2 region and above, and we have successfully broken out. What I want to see from MATIC now is a retest on the daily. Of course, if you have already traded the breakout, that was a smart move to maybe get 30% into the breakout of this trend. But if you haven't already, potentially wait for a retest. We don't always get retests. They are a luxury in this market, but generally, if you haven't gotten a trade in on breakout, you wouldn't FOMO in now. You'd wait for a retest of this level, and on that level, you'd put another percentage of your position in, and then hopefully it responds positively to the upside once it confirms. But this is a very bullish chart for MATIC getting this breakout, because when we look out and when we zoom out onto the higher time frames, we can see that this level can potentially take us all the way to $2. Looking at the weekly chart here, there isn't much in the way of new all-time highs for MATIC, and to be honest, that's crazy to say during the midst of a bear market that a token could even consider that in these conditions. But what I honestly believe about MATIC is that the fundamentals now are 10 times stronger than they were during the bull run. MATIC in the bull run was still a concept. It didn't have much development. It didn't have many partnerships. It didn't have as well of a fleshed out vision. Now it does. Now it has the partnerships, as we can see here, the Amazon partnership, Adidas, Coke, Disney, Meta, Mercedes, Nike, Reddit, Robinhood, Starbucks. Now it has those fundamentals behind it. They've significantly expanded the team, and they're launching a ZK EVM product after the $250 million acquisition of the Hermes network. So MATIC's fundamentals, they're stronger now than they were in the bull run, but of course in the bull run, you have all that extra liquidity. So to me, although it's crazy to say that it could look at pushing past that $2 level again, it's looking very, very strong, and if it can confirm above the highs here, I think this will be a decent long that can take you up to that $2 region. It's an exciting time to be a MATIC holder, and we can see the trend is very strong, continuously making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and once again, higher lows, which have taken us through the top of its range. So that is an exciting time for MATIC, but also these other ZK coins are ones that I don't think you can fade. If Bitcoin holds up, they can be strong performers. So, of course, a lot of this does rely on Bitcoin, but you've got Loopring, you've got Mina Protocol. These are super strong projects that I talked about in my thread that I think can perform, just given the fact that ZK projects are really hyped at the moment and they're being talked about quite a lot. You've also got the privacy coins like Rose, which are factoring into this as well. Now I want to talk about Fantom and give you a Fantom update, because there's a lot happening on this side as well, not only with the Fantom price itself, but with the ecosystem. Now, it's interesting because the Fantom price is being driven for two reasons right now. Number one, you've got FVM, which is the upgrade to the Fantom virtual machine, which will see Fantom speeds eclipsing the EVM by 8x according to their testnet data, which is massive, and that is potentially going to be launching in Q3 to Q4 this year. So that is definitely something to look forward to in tandem with Andre being back and working on new code. But you also have a second variable here, which is FUSD, which is the Fantom USD stablecoin, which is going to be launching soon, which we know Andre has been working on. Now, why is this a catalyst right now? Well, it's because in general, there's a lot of FUD and skepticism around the centralized stablecoins like USDC and BUSD, which are potentially actually being labeled as securities by the SEC. Now, with a lot of FUD around these coins, I do think the decentralized stablecoin narrative is stronger now than ever. And with Fantom launching its own decentralized stablecoin, you're kind of killing two birds with one stone from getting a super strong ecosystem specific narrative like FVM and also a general crypto strong narrative like decentralized stablecoins, which is powering its price action. It has seen significant resistance at the 57-cent region. So this is a region that it would need to clear to shoot towards that 65-cent zone. And then the 65-cent zone, just like for MATIC, the $1.30 zone super important, is Fantom's level that it needs to clear if it wants to get back to $1. If Fantom breaks 65 cents, I mean, just look at how quick the rapid descent down was. The rapid ascent upwards can be just as quick if we break that level straight back up to $1. Now, it's not going to be easy because we do have to break 65 cents, which is a key resistance zone, and it's never as easy as just to pump straight up. The market's going to do your best to try and shake you out like it did over the last week, but if you're not shaken out yet and you paid attention to the levels that I've pre-specified on this show, you would have done quite well. You would have caught the bounce on the MA in confluence with this key horizontal support at 43 cents, and then we got the push up to the upside, which is now resulting in bullish continuation. Hopefully a reclamation of the 58-cent zone could be a bullish catalyst for Fantom in terms of price action and technicals. But let's see what happens with the price here. It is at a critical level right now, but if Fantom somehow does break to the upside, then you've got the ecosystem, which I think has been lagging. Now, we did get a bit of a catch up in some of the coins. So MPX, which is one I've been talking about recently, that ended up pumping massively today, 45%. Congrats to the guys that got onto that. I did speak about that on Sunday over on Crypto Banter. Of course, I stream every day on Banter. There's a link in the description to my videos there. If you missed those shows, I recommend keeping up to date with all that content because it's top notch as well as the videos on this channel. But yeah, MPX was a big solid performer for us, and then we also had Equal performing strongly, which is the DEX on Fantom, which I still think is at a reasonable valuation relative to the rest of the market. And then I've got other coins like Rave, which I think, although have pumped today, in general have been lagging behind and could definitely catch up here. So the ecosystem can definitely be a strong one to trade. We've seen the crazy amount of green that kicks in when Fantom's strong for the eco coins, so that is something I would look at as well. And off the back of the decentralized stablecoin narrative we touched on before, there are a few plays in this narrative which I'm also looking at. One of them is Curve, because Curve is launching their stablecoin Curve USD soon with a custom liquidation engine, which is really cool, and that's going to play a big part in the Curve ecosystem. You've also got Aave launching its 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓 stablecoin. This is what I'm really looking forward to, and this could be a potential catalyst for Aave as well. And then you've got Frax, which is playing off the back of both the stablecoin narrative and the LSD, liquid staking derivatives narrative, heading into the Shanghai upgrade at the end of Q1 this year, which in my opinion is very bullish for Ethereum staking, and off the back of that is going to be bullish for liquid staking, because people need places to liquid stake, and it makes sense to do so on platforms like Frax and also platforms like Lido and Rocket Pool that are also beneficiaries of that narrative. So Frax, once again, kills two birds with one stone. You get the decentralized stablecoin exposure, you get exposure to the LSD narrative, and overall it's just a great project. I've been trying to stack this one as much as possible. Obviously trying to do it mostly on pullbacks. And Frax is also at a very critical point in terms of its price action right now. We're rejecting off the 11.3 cent region. We do have that major level at 13.6 that we need to break through. But for all you short-term traders out there, if we do get a successful confirmation of the 11.3 region, I think we can push up to the upside and test its range highs. So this is a good one, and this consolidated pretty nicely in this range. It was basically just chopping sideways here for quite some time. So the next leg up here can be expected. Obviously, you've got a nice invalidation to it, 9.5 cents. So it makes this one relatively easy to trade since it's been adhering to its levels quite strongly, at least on the horizontals. Of course, if you want to trade Frax or any other coin in this video, you can do so on Bitget and ByBit. Once again, there is the Rolex giveaway right now. One trade equals one entry. So I recommend getting involved in that if you do want to win a Rolex. And even if you don't, they're just good exchanges to trade on in general and have very nice deposit bonuses as well. So thank you guys for watching this show. Hopefully it gives you some insight into how I'm trading the market right now. 25k is that key level to watch for Bitcoin. We're going to start preparing by getting our altcoin watch list ready to buy them on pullbacks. Potentially if we get an explosion from Bitcoin, those can be super top performers. And we also have very clear invalidation levels for if things don't play out. So overall, it's an exciting time to be in crypto. It's an exciting time to be in the market. It's an exciting time to be watching this market. And I can't wait to see how things play out over the next couple of weeks. And of course, I'll keep you guys updated posted twice a week on this channel, as well as every single day on Crypto Banter and my Twitter. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to this channel and smash that post notification bell to stay up to date with new content. I will see you in the next one, probably this weekend. Have a lovely day. Peace out, guys.